So let's go and meet the fairies of Bleakwatch. First up is our one and only main character, Tinkerbell, which of course everybody loves her. I absolutely love her. You know, like I mentioned in my reaction, you know, she has a lot of engineering qualities, which was also a big inspiration for me on when I wanted to almost quit engineering at one point. And, you know, with me, that movie reminding me to not give up on engineering, I think it's such a great motivation. So, of course, she ended up becoming one of my favorite characters. So, let's go ahead and get into who she is. So, Tinkerbell, a genius tinker talent from Pixie Hollow, is already shaking things up among the Neverland fairies. Spirited and curious, and perhaps a bit reckless, Tink maintains a strong sense of fairness. She's always willing to help those in need, especially if there's something interesting to learn in the process. That actually sounds a lot like me. I do tend on wanting to learn more in engineering than anything. You know, even if that means doing something on YouTube for it, which I'm always happy to be learning engineering stuff even through YouTube, or even just trying to do stuff for YouTube. And it's just been an amazing experience and an amazing time doing so. And I absolutely feel like this is going to be another step in that direction of just me wanting to learn more. But now let's go ahead on here. So let's go to a couple of other ones. So we got Quinn, a fast-talking fairy and natural leader. Quinn is the heart of the Flutterpunks. Don't be fooled by the sarcastic air. Quinn cares deeply about their found family and will do anything to protect the crew. Their mechanical wing trusses provides bursts of speed and silent flying for sneaky heists. Bro. Wow, okay. I'm already looking at the picture. I'm like, so they are actual metal wings. Okay, that's actually very, very interesting. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Then we got Oswald, which is our next one. Quinn's loyal lieutenant and right-hand fairy. Oz is a whiz with facts and figures. A deeply practical sparrowman, Oz can be slow to trust, but once you've earned his friendship, it's steel-clad. Oz's glasses may look unassuming, but they contain advanced machinery that allows him to quickly scan pages of text. Is this going to be some sort of engineering thing that maybe I have no idea that I'm getting myself into? I mean, who knows? Who definitely knows? Then we got sisters Danvers and Darwin. So identical fairy siblings Danvers and Darwin are the reconnaissance experts of the crew. While the sisters are generally friendly and excitable, when it comes to their heists, the pair are all business. Darwin's special goggles allow her to see through walls, and Danvers' headphones can listen in on furtive conversations. Furtive? Actually, I never heard of that word. What is going? Is this magic, or is this the future? What era are we in on this? This is interesting. You know what? I'm already getting very I'm already getting interested. Like, literally, I'm not joking. Like, this is actually getting interesting. What is happening? Okay, I really am getting interested about this. This is something that I think that I wasn't expecting. Like, this is actually crazy. And I don't know. I mean, this is exciting. This is actually very, very exciting. So let's go ahead and get into the next one. Axel, a quiet sparrowman. Axel doesn't say much, but when he does, the others know to listen. While the brawny fairy may look intimidating, he's a gentle soul with a deep well of wisdom. With his mechanical sleeve, Axel keeps the Flutterpunks' gear in good repair and doubles as the crew's lockpick. What is happening? I'm not joking. I'm wondering what is happening. Like, what is what is deeply happening in this? This is interesting. Like, this is really, really interesting. Like, I'm interested. I'm interested. All right, we got Maddox, also known as the Dust Man. Maddox runs the day-to-day operations of the gnome market, including organizing scavenging teams like the Flutterpunks. As Bleakwatch's very first dust talent, Maddox was integral to getting the fledgling fairy city started, and he now greets every new fairy on their arrival day. This dude already kind of looks like trouble. I'm already calling it. He already kind of looks like trouble. Then the King Bartleby, the brilliant and mysterious founder of Bleakwatch. King Bartleby is a tinker talent who dreamed of more, and he founded beneath the bustling streets of the mainland. Bartleby is well loved for his kindness and intelligence, but the reclusive monarch keeps him mostly to himself, working diligently out of the spotlight. That sounds not good either. Something must be up, and we're about to find out. And I also just want to just see what is really, really happening in this. I'm really excited on getting to see what we're going to be doing. So, because I looked a little bit in here, a little bit ahead, I actually found out that this is going to be, this is going to be interesting. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. So with that, it's going to be a smaller. It's going to be a little bit shorter. These chapters are kind of short, but that's okay. So with this one, we're going to do chapters 1 and 2, because 1 is kind of a couple pages, and 2, it's going to be kind of like where we really start picking up from what I looked ahead when I first picked it up. So let's go ahead and start reading this one. Chapter 1. It was a bad night for flying, even for a fairy. Lightning crashed above the churning waves whose white tips were as sharp as fangs. A moment later, thunder bellowed, hurting the dark rain clouds in their frantic stampede. Amidst it all, a small bat-like shape tumbled through the storm, its mechanical wings flapping in a hetric rum. It was a clockwork contraption, and though it maneuvered nimbly in its efforts to stay airborne, every lash of rain and buffet of wind seemed ready to knock it from the sky into the abyss below. Piloting the contraption was the lone fairy. Elmira reached frantically around the cabin, yanking levers and pulling knobs, her shaking hands grabbing the wing axles just as the vehicle began listing to the side, and she righted it with a violent judder. This was bad. More than bad. Elmira was nearly out of pixie dust, which was crucial for keeping the cramped ornithopter in the air. She'd brought as much as she could carry for the journey. It should have been enough. But as the weather had turned, Elmira had been forced to use more and more. She was no tinker talent. Perhaps a fairy with a better understanding of the machine's workings could have easily navigated the storm. But Elmira was desperate. She needed to reach Neverland before anyone realized she was gone. Now she wished she'd be more patient. She scanned the horizon for some sign of her destination, or even just a safe place to touch down. But the darkness was all-consuming, a sea of roiling, massive shadows. It wouldn't be long until the last of her dust was depleted, and the ornithopter would putter to sleep, careening into the waves. Then a flash of lightning, bright as daylight. Elmira gasped as she saw the peaks in the distance. High spires were ringed with clouds, and at the base of the mountain, the crescent moon beach hugged a wide circular cove. Neverland. She'd made it. She'd actually made it. Beneath her relief, Elmira was struck by a powerful sense of awe. Despite being a fairy herself, she never visited or even seen the mysterious islands that housed Pixie Hollow, home of the Never Fairies. She pulled hard on the right axle, angling the ornithopter toward Neverland. Amira lost sight of the island as the lightning's flash was replaced by a grumbling twin of thunder. Still, she was certain she was headed in the right direction. All she needed was one more. The lightning that flared nearby was utterly silent, too fast for even the sound of its strike to keep up, but the ornithopter made plenty of noise. Beneath the sudden brilliance, Amira's hand slipped from the axle, and the ornithopter pitched to the side with a deafening shriek of tearing metal. Crack! She heard the wings snap before she saw it. Amira's stomach lurched as the ornithopter dropped, its broken body twisting dizzily in the unforgiving wind. She tried to pull herself free from the machine's cabin, her own wings fluttering and her hands scrambling for the release latch. She had to escape. She had to. Thunder boomed through the sky, finally catching up. It drowned out the sound of the ornithopter's impact with the ocean's surface. Machine and ferry both disappeared below, into the churning waves. Dude, that is an interesting opening for this book. You know what? Let's go to chapter 2. I have nothing else more to say. Chapter 2. A beautiful morning had dawned in Pixie Hollow, and Tinkerbell was determined not to let it go to waste. The air was crisp and bright. Not a hint of the previous night's storm lingered in the sky. Tink had risen early that day before her work would begin in earnest. The fairies of Neverland were responsible for the change of the seasons, and even Tinker talents like yourself had lots to do. This late in the springtime, everyone was busily preparing for the coming summer. But she couldn't pass up on an opportunity to comb the shore for whatever lost things had washed up with the waves. To think that not so long ago the Never Fairies had looked upon such wonders as worthless junk. It had been Tinkerbell herself who showed Pixie Hollow that nothing was truly worthless. With the right bit of know-how and a little imagination, others' lost things could be useful, instructive, and even just beautiful to look at. Nowadays, there didn't seem to be a single fairy left who didn't use them in their everyday lives, in some fashion or another. And with the storm as intense as last night's had been, there were bound to be some amazing things that washed up on the mainland. Tinker brought along 2 humongous bags made of large leaves just to carry everything, along with the cart she'd constructed from twigs, grass, and 4 round stones for wheels. She pulled mightily at the cart as she approached the beach, her wings whizzing with exertion and her imagination spinning at what might await her. The sun had just risen over the cove, dressing the sky in gorgeous pinks and gentle blues. Despite her excitement, Tink paused a moment, taking in the view. Just lovely, she said with a sigh. Oh, thanks, Tink, Clank said with lumbering past her. You look nice today, too. Did you do something new to your hair? She meant the view, Clanky, Bobble chimed in. He alighted beside Tinkerbell with the buzz of his wings, blinking into the sunrise from behind his dewdrop goggles. Though your hair does look a little extra pointy today, he added. It's called bedhead, Tink said dryly, adjusting her bun. She let go of the cart for a moment and stretched her arms as she yawned. Like Tinkerbell, Bobble and Clank were Tinker-talented fairies, and that they had been her first friends upon her arrival in Pixie Hollow. Both could be a little eccentric, but they were also loyal allies and brilliant inventors. Thank you for helping me search the cove this early, Tink said. I know it's a lot to ask, with the seasons changing so soon, though maybe one of you wouldn't mind taking a turn with the wagon? Oh, I'm afraid I haven't done my morning calisthenics just yet, Bowers said, shaking his head sadly. Sorry, Miss Bell. Wouldn't want me straining a wing, you know. And Bobble began a series of weak stretches, pulling his arms over his head. Oh, no, I guess not, Tink said through her own wings ached from pulling the wagon. How about you, Clank? Oh, what's that, Tink? The brawny fairy called back. Can't hear you over the ocean sounds. Whoosh! Sorry! This time, when Tink sighed, it was in resignation. She hefted the cart's handle over her shoulder. Not even exhaustion could dampen her excitement today. The three arrived at the cove to find it brimming with lost things. Tink squealed with excitement, her wings fluttering with newfound energy. She grabbed one of the bags and flew into the air. Tinkerbell scanned the beach for particular interesting bits and bobs. "What do you suppose this is?" Bobble said, approaching a set of human spectacles. Tinkerbell recognized them from her trips to the mainland. Human wore them over their eyes to help with their eyesight, in the very same manner Bobble uses dewdrops. Peering through them, Bobble's already magnified eyes expanded to gigantic proportions. He blinked curiously. "They're like petrified dewdrops," Tink explained. "The clear parts are useful, but very brittle. Put them in the cart carefully." She grimaced as she heard the spectacles clatter into the wagon. Hopefully, at least one of the fragile panes had survived. She turned to another glittering object in the dunes, lifting a golden loop and brushing it clear of sand. It was shaped like a perfect circle, except for a small hooked segment that opened and closed with a push. Tink wasn't totally sure, but she thought it might be some kind of human jewelry. It was much too small for this enormous wrists or necks, but she remembered she'd seen a few humans on the mainland wearing similar pieces dangling from their ears. The ring was about the size for Fairy's wrist, however, and the way it caught the light made her think of Iridessa, her light-talented friend. Perhaps it'd make a nice gift. She dropped it in her sack. She flew around the beach, collecting more interesting pieces as she went. There was a silvery human food trident, a springy whirligig. She can never have too many of those. And even a white ceramic pot with a frilly purple lid she was certain Silver Mist and Rosetta would both want to claim. Then, jutting from the sand, she spotted a wing. She buzzed close. It was the most curious design, shaped vaguely like a bat's wing but constructed from artificial elements. Humans always impressed Tink with their own ingenious tinkering, and this appeared to be a fascinating combination of natural inspiration and mechanical materials. As she wiped sand from the object, she saw it was bigger than she'd realized. The wing was just one part of a larger shape that resembled some kind of flying machine, small for human needs, but almost perfectly sized for a fairy. In fact, if Tink had known better, she might have believed it had been built for one. But that didn't make sense, did it? None of the Tinkers in Pixie Hollow could fashion something this complicated from metal. They worked with natural materials. Where would a fairy even begin? "Hey, you two?" Tink called. "Can you give me a hand here? I'm not sure what to make of this." Bobble and Clink flew over, the two Tinkers scratching their heads in surprise. It is a strange one for sure," Bobble said, "but lost things are frequently confounding. What's that big round bit over there?" "Only one way to find out," Clank said, cheerfully dusting off his palms. "Let's dig it up." The three set to digging, Tink and Bobble using shells to shovel sand from the object while Clank pushed great piles aside with his bare hands. Together, they had the thing uncovered in no time, which was when the fairies received their next big surprise. Tink guessed, "There's someone inside!" Not just someone. A fairy had been buried along with the object, tucked into a compartment in the vehicle's center. She looked so small and frail, with dark hair and pallid skin. At least she was breathing. Tink could see the fairy's chest rising and falling in a weak rhythm. "The poor thing," Bowel said. "Was she caught in the storm? But who is she?" Clank wondered. "And where did she come from?" Tinkerbell fluttered to the compartment door, yanking it open with a grunt. Working together, she, Clank, and Bobble gently pulled the stranger from the vehicle and laid her down onto the sand. "You two go get the healing talents," Tink said. "Tell him to bring a cot. Say it's an emergency. I'll keep an eye on her until they get here." Both fairies nodded gravely and then turned and sped away as fast as their wings could fly. Tinkerbell was no healer, but she did what she could for the strange fairy while she waited. She collected twigs from nearby bushes and angled one of the lessons from the spectacles they found to make the sun's light just so. Magnifying the beam to the accumulated kindling, she was able to produce a small bright dot. Soon a line of smoke ribboned into the air. Dessa would be proud, Tink thought. Before long, she had a fire burning safely to warm the weight-laden fairy's wings. Next, Tink ripped open one of the leafy bags she brought to collect lost things, laying it over the fairy like a blanket. If the poor stranger had indeed been tossed around in the sea during the last night's storm, then she must be freezing. The newcomer wore the strangest clothes, fairy-sized textiles sewn together, complete with literal decorative bobs and buttons. She was almost dressed like, well, a human. The only fairy Tink had known to dress so oddly was Zarina, a once exile of Pixie Hollow who had taken up with a group of pirates for a time. Had this stranger been forced to live amongst humans too? While she waited for help to arrive, Tinkerbell investigated the fairy flying machine. 2 bat-like wings were attached to the round cabin where the rider sat. One of the wings was damaged, likely from the storm, and it was barely connected to the cabin anymore. Peering inside at the array of axles and pulleys, Tink was shocked at how complicated the machinery looked. She tugged at a pulley, then laughed in delight as a rigid tail appeared from the sand, flicking dirt away with every pull. At the back of the interior cabin was some kind of container, a tank made of the same clear petrified material as the lenses that Tink had found earlier. She squinted inside it. A fine layer of sparkling motes dusted the bottom of the tank. Was that pixie dust? But this machine definitely hadn't come from Pixie Hollow. A groan pulled Tinkerbell back from her exploration. The stranger was stirring. She hurried to the fairy's side. "Hello?" Tink said as gently as she could manage in her excitement. "Are you doing all right?" "Don't worry, help is coming." The fairy's eyes fluttered open. With her gaze focused on Tinkerbell, they widened in shock. "It's okay," Tink said, holding up her hands. "I'm a friend. You've had an accident. You're in Pixie Hollow, and healers are on the way. I'm Tinkerbell." The fairy's face changed now. Was that relief that Tink saw in her eyes? She supposed that made sense considering all the stranger had just been through. "Can you tell me your name?" Tink asked. The fairy opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She pointed at her neck with a pained expression and shook her head. "You can't speak," Tink said. She frowned, searching around. Tinkerbell grabbed one of the unburned sticks near the fire, setting the tip ablaze until it was charred and black. Then she pulled a leaf from the makeshift blanket. "Can you write it?" she asked, handing both the items to the stranger. The fairy's hand shook as she maneuvered the burnt twig in one hand and the leaf in the other. But using the charred tip, she was able to scratch the words Elmira onto the leaf in 2 stretchy black letters. "Elmira," Tink said, delighted. "Okay, good. Now, where are you from, Elmira? Somewhere on Neverland?" Elmira shook her head, screwing her face into a thoughtful expression. She lifted the stick and leaf again. Her shaking was getting worse, and barely managed to draw a rough shape across the back of the leaf. It looked like a tower of some kind with a sharply steep roof. Then Elmira added one last detail, a circle embedded in the top with 2 pointed lines inside. "A clock?" Tinkerbell asked. Elmira nodded excitedly, holding her hands out wide. "A big clock," Tink corrected, "like the one on the mainland." Now the stranger gasped in surprise. Clearly she hadn't expected Tinkerbell to know anything about Big Ben. But Tinkerbell had visited the mainland several times, and had even flown by the tower with her human friend Lizzie on one occasion. She was a very worldly fairy, yet she never heard of a fairy being from the mainland. That just didn't happen. Fairies visited the mainland from time to time, but every one of them had begun their life in Pixie Hollow. Perhaps Elmira was confused by her crash. She'd been through a terrible ordeal, to be sure. Or maybe she was an exile like Zarina, had managed to cross the sea. Yet, it seemed so unlikely. How could she have flown this vehicle, not to mention survived on the mainland, without dust from the pixie dust tree? And if the glittery substance Tink saw in the cabin was in fact pixie dust, how had this fairy obtained it? Tink couldn't deny the enormous flying machine itself, looming just beside them. A machine that appeared to have been built specifically for fairies. This situation was getting more peculiar by the moment. Elmira's strength seemed to be dwindling. Her eyes drooped with exhaustion, and her hands trembled terribly. For the first time, Tink noticed the odd bracelet on the fairy's wrist, with the loop of brass that had no clear clasp that Tink could see. How did Elmira get it on and off? Despite her fatigue, Elmira was scribbling frantically on another leaf, grimacing with the effort of holding both the leaf and the charred twig steady. "Hey," Tinkerbell said, "maybe you should take it easy until we can get you healed." The fairy ignored her. She drew a small oblong oval, inside of which was an eight-pronged shape. It looked almost like a gear or cog. Then she drew a larger loop attached to the top of the oval, and extending away, it looked like she was drawing some kind of necklace or amulet. Elmira tossed the twig and held up her drawing, pushing it toward Tinkerbell. I don't understand," Tink said. "A necklace?" Elmira's eyes burned with urgency. She tapped her hand to her chest. "Your necklace? So it's not human jewelry? Not a lost thing?" At this, Elmira nodded, tapping her chest even more intensely. Then she held up the image of Big Ben. "It is a lost thing," Tink said, slowly understanding the drawing. "Your lost thing. But it's somewhere on the mainland." The relief that flooded Elmira's expression was as pure and gentle as summer rain. She let out a sigh of gratitude, lowering the drawings. Then she promptly fainted. Somebody make this into a movie? If Disney's not going to make a movie of this, maybe I will. Actually, this is a very interesting story. Like, I actually want to know what's going to be happening. Well, that's not going to happen until later on down the road, because we're on chapter 3 now. But that's going to be a different video. This has gotten interesting. Depending on how short the chapters are, I might end up doing, like videos that are about maybe, I don't know, 1 to 2 chapters each, maybe 3, depending on how short the chapters are. But what an interesting concept. So there are those living in the mainland, or underneath the mainland at this point. That's so strange and interesting. I actually am enjoying this concept. Interesting. And all the sense of it, interesting. I'm liking this. I'm actually really liking this. No way I'm not going to stop reading this book. When is the second book coming out, actually? I'm going to, you know what? Let me look it up to see when the Bleakwatch Chronicles book 2 comes out. This is so cool. This is super cool. Let's see. I'm interested. I really am interested on this. Like, when is it going to be out? Okay, so let's see. It doesn't really show when book 2 comes out. Maybe I'm just gonna have to wait. Interesting. Apparently, I'm reading on a Reddit thing. There was a scrapped steampunk movie that was for this, and that's gonna be that's this book. I feel like taking up animation lessons to make this into a movie, like a legitimate fan movie, and doing it like an episode by episode ordeal. If I end up doing so and I end up doing a pretty good job with it, would any of you guys want to be voice actors for it? I mean, that would definitely be a lot of fun. I could do a couple of them. My British accent and my Scottish accent, I mean, they could be a little bit better. I know that for sure. I mean, I could definitely try a little bit more if Bobble and Clank end up being more in this book. But again, I mean, I would love to make this into like a fan film like type of deal. Like I would totally want to do so. Like make it into like a Disney Plus type series in a way. I would love to do like a fan thing of this. And if you guys are wanting to do it, if you guys are wanting to be voice actors with me on this, that would be super, super cool. I would be totally excited to do it. This seems like a lot of work. I know it would be a lot of fun to try. And I mean, I would want to try and see if I can get to doing this. I mean, of course, I'm going to have to watch the movies again for inspiration. I'm going to have to do my best on what the place looks like, everything. I have to take into consideration what the place is supposed to look like and everything. I'm going to do my best. It seems like a fun project to do, and I think that this would be a very, very ambitious one to do, but I think this is totally going to be a project that would definitely be worth the wait, and especially because I think this franchise, realistically, I think Disney Fairies has been I think it's been underrated. I think that it's underrated in the point that we haven't really gotten a lot in the franchise, and I think that this is a good step towards revitalizing and rejuvenating that franchise again and trying to bring something to it. I really believe it, and I think that this would be a great opportunity to bring the Disney Fairies franchise back. And to be honest, I actually have a special project that I've been kind of working on my own in relation to it. I was gonna do do something with it in private, but I think I'm gonna bring it back, and it's a lot of inspiration from a lot of the things of my childhood, a lot of the things in my adulthood, and just wanting to combine it in a story like this. I think that this would be super cool to try out and getting to attempt. So if you guys want to see me, to present that special project to you guys, or these special projects, let me know in the comments. I would want to try to be able to bring something like this to life and do my best in animation, do my best in writing, and I think you guys would be pretty pleased with the outcome of it. I think you guys really would be. With that being said, thank you guys so much for listening to me reading the first book in the Bleakwatch Chronicles, Tinkerbell and the Lost City, chapters 1 and 2, and introducing the characters. If you guys want to see more videos like this, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to follow me on any of my social media, I have Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, aka X, my Discord, or my Discord server, and my TikTok accounts, which those links will be in the description below. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you all, stay safe, and I will see you all in the next videos. Bye, guys.